I collected evidence of my wife's affair for months before filing for divorce, and it paid off massively. With several break-ins happening in nearby neighborhoods, I thought it would be wise to get a security system. So, I went ahead and purchased a wireless one. I set up smoke alarms and placed open-close sensors on each of the doors. My wife had been nagging me for a while to replace the smoke alarms, but when I told her about the sensors, she went ballistic. She couldn't explain why, but she was extremely uncomfortable with them in place. This didn't make any sense to me, so I consulted a friend about the issue. After hearing me out, he was just as puzzled as I was. It didn't seem logical to be against door sensors. But then, after some thoughtful silence, my friend asked, "Have you ever thought that maybe someone else is coming and going while you're not there? It seems to me that she doesn't want you to see this activity, which could explain her discomfort with the sensors." Rather than punching him for suggesting such a thing, I just grumbled, but his words nagged at me every day. A week later, I had a business trip that kept me away for 3 nights. When I checked the alarm system in the evening, it was offline. I checked again the next morning, and it was back online. I swallowed my suspicions and didn't say anything to her, but the same thing happened the next 2 evenings, offline at night, back online by morning. I mentioned this to my friend, and he said, "Alarm systems aren't that flaky. Don't you think it's strange that it's offline when you're away, but never has this issue when you're around?" So, I went to the store and got a camera to hook up to the system. I set the camera to face the system itself to see if my wife was manually turning it off. I was tempted to tell her about it, but I didn't. The following week, I had a day trip, and the home system went offline again. This time, however, I had a recording. I saw, with my own eyes, my wife disconnecting it. The friend I had been chatting with about all of this happened to be a lawyer. If it weren't for him, I'd have been screwed. I wanted to confront her immediately, but my friend told me, "No. You don't have enough evidence. You have to be patient." I asked him how I would ever get enough evidence if she kept turning the system off. He suggested getting a decoy and explained how it could work. So, I bought another hub for the security system, hid the original one under the counter and out of sight, but set up the new one as though it was the original. I was too anxious to see if it would work, so I told her I had another day trip the next day. I left for the day and stayed out of sight. Sure enough, she appeared on the recording, turning off the decoy system. But this time, I also got the system log showing that the door sensors had been triggered. I had her, but my friend told me I still didn't have enough. So, I was patient and set up the rest in stages, each time letting her get away with it and gathering more and more evidence. I got another wireless camera for the system and placed it facing the entry door that had triggered. Over several more incidents, I learned that she was having a male guest. He was parking his car several streets over, but I found out which one was his. My friend advised, it's easier to put a GPS on his car, which is illegal, but better than trying to follow him and risk getting caught. So, I waited and told my wife I'd be working in the city, 40 miles away, for the rest of the week. I took a week off work. That day, when her lover came over, I put a GPS on his car. It would ping my hub once a minute for the next several days. I traced it on my laptop in real time, and when he was at home, the GPS gave me an exact location. In our state, we can look up property information online, so I found out his name and his wife's name. They'd been married for 17 years with all their kids in high school. Then, I put the wireless camera in our bedroom, only to find out they weren't using our bed but were getting it on in our walk-in closet, which was spacious enough for the job. The camera picked up the audio, but not much video. I did manage to capture some video, though, like them leaving the closet naked, but nothing too explicit. I waited for her to leave for shopping one day and repositioned the camera in the closet. The next time he came over, I caught them in full glory. Now what? My friend told me, while you have enough evidence, she will still deny it because she doesn't want to get him in trouble with his wife. She'll dig in and won't give up. Your best bet is to bundle all this stuff together and give it to her lover's wife anonymously. Once that happens, the dominoes will fall, and your wife will have to come to you with a confession. If you do it right, you can erase all your fingerprints from the situation, keeping you from being the accuser. I liked this plan, but I really wanted to get it over with, so I used some movie-making software to piece together all the parts and stages of my investigation, dates, times, everything, and strung them together in a timeline. This part was kind of fun, so I added context captions for more information. Once it was all done, I added close-up zooms. I was getting all the anger out of my system while making it, and though it might seem strange, there was this odd thrill in having not only won the game but mastered it. Now, I was about to play her instead of the other way around. Might as well knock it out of the park. I added comedy pop-ups next to their heads with thought bubbles of quips. I started laughing hysterically after it was done. I couldn't help but wonder if I was losing it. When I first handed it to the lover's wife, she didn't know who I was. I said I was doing a background investigation on her husband for a new position he was being considered for at work, and after following him around, this is what I discovered. I left the homemade movie with her. Only much later did she learn who I was. After I dropped it off with the cheated-on wife, I waited for the moment when the storm hit. That evening, my wife came to me teary-eyed and confessed the whole thing. I asked her, why now? She told me that the lover's wife had called her with the information and how she had obtained it. She told my wife she would allow her to tell me about it first, but she was going to do it herself if my wife didn't. So, my wife got in front of the train and spilled her guts about everything. I had the presence of mind to keep the wireless camera handy in the room, and when she started confessing, I recorded the whole thing. As a bonus, I got her to confess that she'd been doing it with this guy for almost 4 years. She'd even gotten pregnant by him once, but it miscarried. I still remember the episode. She made up a fake medical reason for it. I was so worried for her health when it happened. Pretty stupid, I know. It was highly satisfying to pretend ignorance while she confessed her heart out. I told her I wanted her to file for divorce, to start the papers rolling, and that she should assume she would get nothing in the settlement. However, I would give her something after the fact, so it would seem like I was being generous. She would have none of it. She hired an attorney who tried to get her more than half the community property assets, including the house, leaving me with all the credit card debt and attorney fees for my half. Her attorney made it sound like a one-night stand. My attorney argued she should have nothing and handed over all the evidence, including stuff the other wife didn't have. We hadn't been assigned a judge yet, so the judge took sides with my attorney since I had the recording proving she'd been deceiving me for almost 4 years. My attorney also argued that I had offered to give her something back if she made it simple and quick. I had also offered to bury the cheating so nobody had to talk about it anymore. This was the purpose of making her file on me first. It would look like she left on her own, which, in reality, she did when she cheated in the first place. Oddly, her lover came to the hearing and sat in the back. Since we had never officially met, I guess he thought I didn't know who he was. I introduced myself to him during a recess break, and he gave me a fake name, claiming his hearing was coming up, which was why he was sitting there. I corrected him and told him exactly who he was and why he was there. I thought he might leave at this point, but he stuck it out. The lover and his wife eventually divorced, and she took the lion's share. Sometime later, they happened to be in a supermarket, trading superficial greetings, when I walked past them into the store. I didn't see them standing there, but I saw her in the store right after and didn't say anything. While I was at the store, the lover's wife approached me. She said, "You gave me some valuable information a while back." I just nodded, and we exchanged a few pleasantries. Then she said, "You're the husband who got busted, right?" I smiled and confessed, "Yes, that's me." She thanked me for my self-control and patience in gathering the evidence properly and delivering it at the right time. That night, I got a call from my ex-wife. She had found out about my role in the whole situation, and she was absolutely furious. It seems the other couple had figured out who I was and realized what had really happened. The lover had called my ex-wife and told her everything. Up until that moment, they all believed the cover story that a work-related investigator had handed over the findings. I told my ex-wife, "So what? You came to me and confessed." I didn't have to play the bad cop and pound the table. The writing was on the wall, and it was time to confess, and you knew it. She said, "No, if I had known it was you behind it, I wouldn't have confessed." I replied, "Exactly. I got what I wanted in the only way I could have, and frankly, I had a thrill doing it." Then I advised my friends, if you're suspicious of your wife, don't confront her in real time when she's flirting or acting suspicious. Be patient, gather evidence, and only confront her when you have enough to back up your claims. Enjoyed the story? Hit subscribe to catch all our latest tales. Your support helps us keep sharing great stories. Subscribe now and stay tuned for more.